All right. Today is now it's 4:06. Whoops. Now it's 4:06. You can't hardly see the 6, but it's 4:06. And it's Sunday, March 8th. 4:06 in the morning. And I made this. Okay. I made this one. Okay. And I can't get it out. I will eventually get it out, but this is not silicone. It don't bend so easy. So, but right now, what I'm gonna do is read my letter to you, Arden. And like I said before, I could say the same stuff, a lot of same stuff to any of my other grandchildren, but they're not in touch with me, and I'm not in touch with their parents. Not because of my will, but because of theirs. This in sacred memory to Moby Dick. To you, Bamba. Dear Arden, to you. It's a tombstone. Rest in peace. And let me put my glasses on so I can see better. Not such an eye strain. All right. In sacred memory of the crew of the ship Essex and all those other brave victims of the white whale Moby Dick. This monument is erected by the citizens of New Bedford, Massachusetts, in the year of our Lord, 1838. That's grass. That's the sun. Those are clouds and a bird. And I try to do a three-dimensional style. The tombstone. See, that's three-dimensional. Two-dimensional would be if I didn't make it look like you could see the side of it. All right. Moby Dick. Moby Dick, the mightiest of all sea beasts, was known not only by his island bulk, but by his peculiar snow-white forehead and a high white hump like a hill of snow, and harpoons stuck in his side were stuck there by men now dead. Those are harpoons. And they have ropes on them. But they didn't have ropes on him because he had a lot of harpoons stuck in him. All right. Moby Dick, the white whale. There was never nor ever will be a braver life than the life of the whaler. Compared to the game they hunt, the mightiest land beast was like a poodle dog. When the whalers go hunting, for the whales, like the mightiest elephant, okay? It could be like a little poodle dog compared to a whale. Okay. Compared to the crush and crash of the sperm whale flukes, goes out of his head. The most direful blow of a mad elephant's trunk was but a playful tap with a fan compared to great white whale. Okay. That's Moby Dick. That's the ship Essex. Okay. Dear Arden, my dear Bamba, today is Friday, March 6th. It is now 2:14 in the afternoon. I just returned from the store where I bought flower seeds and pepper plant seeds. because my pepper bush got killed by the freeze, and I want to grow more peppers and flowers. Goldie Rip and Mr. T went with me because it's very exciting for them to go with me. They really like to know stuff, see stuff, and smell stuff with me. Bonnie stays home by choice, and Sally is feeble and blind. I think God has put it into Bonnie's heart to stay home with Sally. Sometimes God puts things in our hearts, and it is beyond us to know why. The things God puts in our hearts are like wants and desire, purpose and mission, love and hate, sadness and happiness. Mostly these things come by way of feeling and knowing, inner knowing, but I said knowing. Sometimes we just know something, and sometimes we don't even know why. A lot of times that is the way of love and affection. We can think we know why, but remember, your heart is like an ocean. And there are a lot of unknowns in there. Well, whales and octopuses are very amazing creatures of the sea, aka also known as the ocean, the sea or the ocean. I can tell you about octopuses later, but I want to tell you about the big white whale or sperm whale now named Moby Dick. Moby Dick, a captain, and Captain Ahab, his ship and his crew. See, I was a sailor once on an aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier was as tall as the Empire State Building. From the end of the hull, it goes down in the water, you know, like a V, so you don't tip over. And from the bottom of the hull to the top of its mast, of Vulture's Row. Let's see, was as tall as the Empire State Building from the end of its hull to the top of its mast, like this. Okay. That's the Empire State Building. That's the USS John F. Kennedy. In fact, I'm going to write that on there. USS John F. Kennedy. Well, I'll do it later. Anyway, I can't draw a picture of a ship too good, okay? But when they go into dry dock, you can see how big they are. That gives you an idea. The hull goes down very deep, so the ship doesn't tip over in big waves of water. The top where the mast is called Vulture's Row. And you know, aircraft carriers don't really have like a mast like a sail, okay? But they still got a very, very high top that you can go look out of, and it's called Vulture's Row. And that's where their radio antennas are and stuff like that. And I used to go up there, watch the planes take off. And I went up there in storms too. Look out, man. And I'm telling you, like my dad would say, I'm here to tell you, those waves are big as a house. The biggest house I ever seen. I'm talking about fearful, like fear of God. You see those waves and you'll have the fear of God. I'm serious. Okay, but the hull goes down very deep so the ship doesn't tip over in big waves of water. The top where the mast is called Vulture's Row. Sometimes I would go to the top, look out of Vulture's Row and look out at the ocean in a big storm and watch as the boat would rock up and down with waves so big if you weren't hanging on you could fall over. One time I had to mop the coop where my bunk to sleep was. The coop I was in was only one deck below the hangar bay, and above the hangar bay was the flight deck. They had elevators for the elevators the plane could fit on, go from the hangar bay to the flight deck, okay? Because you could take an airplane and put it in the hangar bay and then clear the flight deck. All airplanes. It could hold like 62 F-18s or F-16s. When I was gonna think they were F-16s. You gotta hold like 62 of them or something. I remember that because I was born in 62. And it was John F. Kennedy, and he was president when I was born. It's just kind of amazing that why I joined the Navy. I got put on the John F. Kennedy. During the war, I had to wear earplugs to try and sleep because the planes would come crashing down, man, on that flight deck and taking off on that flight deck like rockets. And plus, they had a big thing like a rubber band that caught them so they wouldn't, when they came down, they wouldn't crash. And that thing helped catapult them off the deck. Seriously. It's intense stuff. So during the war, I had to wear earplugs to try and sleep. When I was mopping and cleaning our coop, I was so seasick from the rocking, I turned yellow. I was so sick, and I even turned yellow. When you first start sailing, you have to get what they call your sea legs. I did get my sea legs, and then it was kind of fun. Yeah. You don't actually grow these. You grow these sea legs in your heart, okay? And pretty soon, you don't get motion sickness like I used to. And plus, you learn how to walk, and when the boat is rocking, that's what you learn still how to walk, so you don't fall against the wall and everything. But I did get my sea legs, and it was kind of fun. The waves on the ocean are bigger than the biggest house I ever saw. And I don't know how those whalers, like the ones chasing Moby Dick, ever survived on boats much smaller than the great big boat I was on. I am not cowardly, but knowing and seeing and feeling what I felt on big water in big storms, I would be afraid for my life, because the ocean will swallow you up in one big gulp, and you will never be heard from again. And this is the way of the tempestuous sea. This is also the way of the tempestuous heart. Our hearts are like the ocean. Who can know it? The Bible says in the Old Testament, one of the prophets, I think it's Jeremiah. I know it's Jeremiah. Said, above all else, the heart is deceitfully wicked. Who can know it? Well, the heart is deceitful. Who can know it? I think it does say deceitful wicked, but everybody's heart is deceitful, okay? It don't have to be wicked, but it's deceitful because we don't know everything that lurks below in the deep of our hearts. But time does reveal it. You will be pushed and driven to places you never expected or could imagine. That is why sometimes we don't even know why we feel like we do. And sometimes God puts into the hearts of humans and beasts things we don't even understand. In times of trouble and fright, we can find courage we didn't even know we had. In times of grief and sadness, we find hope we didn't even know we could have. We cannot explain it. In times of confusion, we can feel peace and sing, like in church, it is well with my soul. And even my dad, Don Henry Robbins, your great grandfather, told me when he was dying, that was the most exciting time of his life. Sometimes we call these unexplainable things paradox. Jesus used a lot of paradox in his teaching when it comes to the mysteries of God. Our lives are laced with things we just can hardly understand. A songwriter wrote, "Many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand." That reminds me of a story set to song by Willie Nelson and Ray Charles singing it together. 7 Spanish Angels. I will write it to you. My mom, your great My mom, your great-grandma, Sharon, gave it to her mom, your great-great-grandma, Virginia. Except Freddie Fender sang it. I'm pretty sure it goes like, but it goes like this, okay? I know my mom, I think Freddie Fender sang the song, or it was another song that she gave I know she gave my mom Freddie Fender, but it seems like it was the Spanish Angels. Anyway, I'm thinking about the Spanish Angels. Willie Nelson and Ray Charles sang this version in my mind together. He looked down into her brown eyes and said, "Say a prayer for me." She threw her arms around him, whispered, "God will keep us free." They could hear the riders coming. He said, "This is my last stand. If they take me back to Texas, they won't take me back alive." There were 7 Spanish angels at the altar of the sun. They were praying for the lovers in the valley of the gun. When the battle stopped and the smoke cleared, there was thunder from the throne, and 7 Spanish angels took another angel home. She reached down and picked the gun up that lay smoking in his hand. She said, "Father, please forgive me. I can't live without my man." Her final prayer was answered when the rifles fired again. There were 7 Spanish angels at the altar of the sun. They were praying for the lovers in the valley of the gun. When the battle stopped and the smoke cleared, there was thunder from the throne. 7 Spanish angels took another angel home. I gotta blow my nose. See, Bamba, my dearest Arden, hearts are deep like an ocean, capable of raging storms that die down in peace. Captain Ahab's heart never did die down in peace. That way, it never died down in peace that way, though. At least as I know. But there can always be many different kinds of endings. Like in the story of Moby Dick. Okay? I know there's different kinds of endings. But, see, the story of Captain Ahab and the Great White Whale, aka Moby Dick, goes like this. Ahab was an experienced whaler. He traveled the oceans where whales lived and hunted them for food and oil to keep lanterns burning at night, because the oil from their blubber burned, and they are so big they provided food for a lot of marine living people who lived off the ocean and water. There was good money in whaling because it is so dangerous. Only the bravest men could do it. Besides that, sailing and whaling is hard work. After being gone for several years, he came back home to where he was from, and they had a new preacher at the church. This preacher had a daughter. Her name was Faith. Faith and Ahab fell in love, and Faith told Ahab she would wait for him to return from sea so they could be married. Another guy who was friends with both Faith and Ahab also loved Faith and proposed to her, but she didn't love him, and she loved Ahab. Before Ahab left on another voyage, before the ship crew left, and the people all said, bon voyage, Ahab and Faith kissed, and Faith promised Ahab she would wait for him. After being out at sea, that's when they met. The fierce, the mighty, the renowned great white whale known as Moby Dick. Captain Ahab was a very fierce and forceful man. His crew was afraid at the sight of the size of the great whale, that great white beast blowing water and air out of his head, flying in the air with tremendous speed out of the water and slamming its tail down on the water, hard enough to buckle a boat in two. When you are hunting for a whale, you have a man up on the top of the sail mast, what we called Vulture's Row, on the lookout. When the man on the lookout seen a whale, he would call out, "There she blows!" and point the whale, and point out where the whale is. Then the crew would drop rowboats from the ship into the water, and they would row out to the whale. When they got close enough, they would throw heavy harpoons at it with ropes attached to catch it, and they would continue in pursuit until they killed it. But, hey. The harpoons with ropes would be long because the whale could dive down and go deep. Sometimes it would capsize or pull the boat down into the water. It is very dangerous. Moby Dick was angry at getting stabbed because Moby already had been stabbed many times. Moby even still, let me just interpause here. I was going to say in my last talk, I never actually got to it, okay? I had a dream on my property, okay, that people took over my property, but when I got back, there were some improvements, but I was helping carry something going down like this hill that was created on my property, okay, that these squatters and people had taken for their own purposes. And sliding down that hill, holding that thing, I slid right down into a carriage, like, with horses, and pulled a carriage, okay? And I was in there. It was like a little being locked in, like you're being taken to jail or something, And there was another guy in there, a couple people, but I asked this one other guy, slid right down into this thing somehow, like going through a portal of time or something. I don't know. Space and time. But I asked him, I asked this guy that was in there, I said, who did all this? How? I just slide into this carriage and all these things that I don't understand. And people on my own property and a different time and what? Who did all this? And he told me, the blue whale. It was the blue whale did all this. That was my dream. I said, wow, blue whale. But this is a white whale, okay? This is Moby Dick. Look, it could be that way. It could be an octopus too. Right? Octopuses, they say, are like, aliens. And they can turn themselves into looking like something completely different. Like, you can't even see an octopus sometimes. And it can make itself look that way. Look invisible. Like just part of the ocean floor. It can do that. An octopus can do that. But I'm not talking about octopus, I'm talking about Moby Dick and Ahab. Well, Ahab got thrown out of the boat as it was capsized, and Moby bit Ahab's leg off, and once again got away. He bit Ahab's leg off. All right, teach him a lesson. All right. Moby got away again. Ahab had to have a wooden peg for a leg thereafter. Finally, after they returned home to the port, Faith came to meet Ahab, and Ahab was the last one out of the ship because he was embarrassed and ashamed. So after they came back, okay, they already put the peg on, made a peg leg extension so Ahab could walk, but it was just a wooden peg strapped to the part of his leg that was still on, and he had to walk that way, hobble along with a wooden peg for a leg. And on the ship, you could hear him walk because that wooden peg would hit the wooden deck, and sound travels through wood. Okay, you can take a stick, like a broomstick, put it to your ear, and then put it to the engine of your car, and you can hear the pistons going up and down. Sound travels through wood. My uncle showed me how to do that one time. My Uncle Dave. He was only, okay, so, you know, he was embarrassed and ashamed of what he became, a man with a peg for a leg. And he was only halfway through the hatch, coming out of the hold of the ship, and didn't come all the way out, so Faith couldn't see his legs. Faith said to Ahab, "What's wrong, Ahab? Don't you want to see me?" Ahab said, "I'm not going to hold you to your promise, Faith." She asked, "Why?" Ahab showed her he now only had a peg and not a leg. Faith got scared and ran away. But later, she sent their mutual friend to apologize for her and invite Ahab back, talk to her and stuff like that, and say she still loved him and wanted to marry him still, even with a peg leg. But when he went to Ahab, their mutual friend, when he went to Ahab, because he still had designs on her, he wanted to get her to marry him. He lied to Ahab because he still thought he could marry her. Ahab's heart became vengeful and full of hate for the whale and pursued him for the rest of his life. One day, they, Moby and Ahab, met again for their final battle. Once again, he harpooned Moby, except this time he got on top of Moby and cried these words as he was stabbing him. "From hell's heart I stab thee. With my last breath I spit at thee." And Moby took Ahab down into the deep, never to be seen, never to be heard from again. He died in rage, pursuing his vengeance. See, Bamba, sometimes the hearts of people drive them into the place only dead men know. And the deep calls for us all. But I don't think you are going to be an angry harpoon woman. I think you're going to save the ocean. Moby Dick is what you call a metaphor. A story that has symbols. Like in the one my mom, your great-grandma Sharon, would read to me. Winkin', blinkin', and nod. Winkin', blinkin', and nod one night sailed off in a wooden shoe, sailed on a river of crystal light into a sea of dew. "Where are you going, and what do you wish?" the old man asked the three. "We have come to fish for the herring fish that live in this beautiful sea. Nets of silver and gold have we," said Winkin', blinkin', and nod. The old man laughed, sang a song as they rocked in the wooden shoe, and the wind that sped them all night long ruffled the waves of dew. The little stars were the herring fish that lived in the beautiful sea. Now cast your nets wherever you wish, never afraid are we. So cried the stars to the fishermen three, Winkin', blinkin', and nod. All night long their nets they threw to the stars in the twinkling foam. Then down from the skies came the wooden shoe, bringing the fishermen home. 'Twas all so pretty a sail it seemed, as if it could not be. And some folk thought 'twas a dream. They dreamed of sailing that beautiful sea. But I shall name you the fishermen three, Winkin', blinkin', and nod. Winkin' and blinkin' are two little eyes, and nod is a little head. And the wooden shoe that sailed the skies is a wee one's trundle bed. So shut your eyes while mother sings of wonderful sights that be, and you shall see the beautiful things as you rock in the misty sea. where the old shoe rocked, the fishermen three, winking, blinking, and nod. That's from your great-great-grandma. Or your great-grandma. That's from your great-grandma. Grandma Sharon. She told me in my heart to tell you that. She's Grandma Sharon. All right. Now, Arden, my dear Bamba, there are other whale tales, like the one in the Bible, when a man named Jonah wouldn't do what his heart knew he had to do. He was supposed to help some people he didn't like, so he got on a ship and went the other opposite direction from the people who he was supposed to talk to, help. And the story goes that God sent a big storm, and the people working on that boat were very superstitious. So they believed God was angry about something. Jonah said, "It is I. Just throw me over, and God will let you live." So they did. And the story says God sent a big fish, a whale, to swallow Jonah into his belly, or her belly. It's hard to say if it was a boy or a girl fish. And then spit Jonah out on the shore. And the story goes on. Okay? The story goes on. Okay? On. Dot, dot, dot. I was studying the Hebrew Bible, where this story is written, in the book of Job, where people go to study the Bible in seminary. And I asked the teacher if he believed that the story of Jonah was a true story or just made up. I can't remember exactly how he replied, but in essence he said, "I don't believe it is true literally, but I do believe it is undeniably true in our hearts." And it doesn't have to be true literally for God to speak to our hearts. Some stories are ineffable. Some things are ineffable. That's how you spell that word. Ineffable. They speak to us in ways that words alone never can. This is why a flower or a rose, like you, Bamba Rose, carries meaning so rich, so beautiful, so ineffable, words can never fully describe or explain. And you are the artist of your own life, so you don't have to explain it all. You just have to be, and your life will do the explaining. The privilege of a lifetime is to be who you are. So, I would like to write you some more direction from a great master who knew this, T.S. Eliot. And he never capitalized his name because he felt so strongly that the only wisdom that we can ever hope to aspire to is the wisdom of humility. See? T.S. Eliot. And I'm telling you this because you remind me of his poetry from the Rose Garden. It's called Four Quartets. But he talks about the Rose Garden. Like he'd been there, okay? I call you not only Bamba, but Bamba Rose. Bamba Rose, my dear sweet Arden. Four Quartets. And this is the end of it. We shall not cease from exploration. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple tree, not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard, in the stillness between two waves of the sea. Quick now, here, now, always, a condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything. And all shall be well when the tongues of flame are enfolded into the crown knot of fire, and the fire and the rose are one. Well, T.S. Eliot talks about voyagers and sea monsters too, but it's too long and complicated for now. So I decided just to write you the end, and that is the fire and the rose are one. The Spectre of the Rose. See, there's a ballet called La Della Rosa. Spectra La Della Rosa. In these last 3 pages, I do want to write you a Bob Dylan metaphor very meaningful to me, because when I close my eyes and rehearse the song, I see the rose bush at the Red River shore, and the girl who is, to me, the world or life. Like, it's a metaphor, you know. Like the girl at the Red River shore. She is like life and like the world, okay? But in my mind, I also see the rose garden, the rose bush, like you, Bamba Rose. The Red River Shore by Bob Dylan. Some of us turn off the lights and we lay up in the moonlight shooting by. Some of us scare ourselves in the dark to be where the angels fly. Pretty maids all in a row lined up outside my cabin door. I've never wanted any of them wanting me except the girl from the Red River Shore. Well, I sat by her side. The world, life, okay. I sat by her side, and for a while I tried to make that girl my wife. She gave me her best advice when she said, go home and lead a quiet life. Well, I've been to the east and I've been to the west and I've been out where the black winds roar. Somehow, though, I never did get that far with the girl from the Red River Shore. Well, I knew when I first laid eyes on her, I could never be free. And one look at her, I knew right away she should always be with me. Well, the dream dried up a long time ago. Don't know where it is anymore. True to life, true to me, was a girl from the Red River Shore. Well, I'm wearing the cloak of misery, and I've tasted jilted love. And the frozen smile upon my face fits me like a glove. But I can't escape the memory of the one I always adore. All those nights when I lay in the arms of the girl from the Red River Shore. Well, we're living in a shadow of fading past, trapped in the fires of time. I've tried not to ever hurt anybody and stay out of a life of crime. And when it's all been said and done, I never did know the score. One more day is another day away from the girl from the Red River Shore. Well, I'm a stranger here in a strange land, but I know this is where I belong. I ramble and gamble for the one I love, and the hills will give me a song. Though nothing looks familiar to me, I know I've stayed here before, once 1,000 nights ago with the girl from the Red River Shore. Well, I went back to see about her once, went back to straighten it out. Everybody that I talked to had seen us there, said they didn't know who I was talking about. The sun went down a long time ago and doesn't seem to shine anymore. I wish I could have spent every hour of my life with the girl from the Red River Shore. Now I heard of a guy who lived a long time ago, a man full of sorrow and strife, that if someone around him died and was dead, he knew how to bring him on back to life. Well, I don't know what kind of language he used, or if they do that kind of thing anymore. Sometimes I think nobody ever here saw me at all, except the girl from the Red River Shore. See, Arden, my dear sweet Bamba Rose, the girl from the Red River Shore is a symbol, a part of a metaphor. We know this because everyone who had seen them there didn't know who he was talking about. That means you must treasure what is most important to you, because you can't count on anybody caring about what is most important to you, except you, Bamba. Treasure your loves, Bamba. Make song and dance for them, laugh and cry with them, hold them and love them. These things, the things that I love and hold dear to my heart, they're just borrowed. They're not mine at all. Jesus, only let me use them to brighten my life. So remind me, dear Lord. Roll back the curtain of memory now and then. Show me where you brought me from and where I might have been. But remember, I'm human and humans forget. So remind me, dear Lord. Okay, I wrote this trust. Okay, it's a thing I wrote. It's a quest style prayer. This is by me. We know pain. We know pain, we know treachery, we know chaos, we know love, we know people, and we have our dogs. But when the nature of our, I need to add lives in there, becomes such that all words become meaningless sounds and the consolation of others deepens our pain, when we cannot be reached and no answer is given, then may we take that step which we do not trust, that step which is not the so-called safe step, but that step toward one who is called good. Love, Grandpa. P.S. Sally is bleeding out of her eye. She might have poked it because she is now pretty much blind, and to me she is the girl from the Red River shore too. And it makes me very sad because I know I will have to say goodbye to her soon. I love you. Bye.